We are live. I'm so excited tonight. I literally, before I was on, I can see like myself in like the PowerPoint, and I was like, should I have like worn a faucet on my head? But I'm not going to wear a faucet on my head. But we're going to get started because your time is valuable. And if you're on here though, I can only see how many people are watching. I can't actually see who's watching. So feel free to comment if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Comment and say hello. I hope that it looked like I like froze for a minute. But I'm excited to be here. I'm talking about the leaky brain tonight. I'm talking about the major symptoms that are involved into it, the underlying causes of it, and we are going to absolutely talk about solutions of what we can do today to help support our blood-brain barrier and help our body function like it should. So I'm going to make me smaller and this bigger. Perfect. So then we can get right into it. Hi, Andrea. I can't remember anything she says. Well, good thing that you are on tonight. I don't know exactly why everyone's on tonight. If you want to tell me why you're on tonight, you absolutely can. What you're excited to learn, what you want to learn. I will have time to do Q&A. So if there are any questions, I will absolutely answer them as we go through. So first thing, you've probably heard of leaky gut before, and that's when you see that on the left side where it's like leaky gut right here. Leaky gut is when you have damage to your intestinal lining and it causes permeability. It causes your gut to leak. So instead of it being tight, things are going through that shouldn't be going through. And this damage that happens to our gut lining, it's called leaky gut. So similar things happen in our brain. So on the right-hand side, that is leaky brain. So the purple part is the brain, and then outside of it, the lumen, like blood vessels around it, that is the outside of the brain. And so every system inside of your body needs to stay inside its own system. Blood is the best example. Like blood needs to stay inside of the blood vessels, inside of the arteries, inside of the veins. And if there's any tear or a problem with that, it is bad, especially internally. Like outside, yes, it'll heal itself up. But if it's like really bad, it can keep bleeding and then we're in trouble. However, if there is an internal leaking of blood into our bodies, it is toxic. It is bad. The other parts of your body and your system can't function if there's blood everywhere. The same thing happens with our GI system, our gut, and our brain. Any type of a breach, a micro tear, these tight junctions that need to stay together start opening up, we have a problem. So leaky brain is the same concept. That barrier of your brain has now been compromised. The doors are open, just like the gut can. And we have these layers of cells that you see right here. It's called your blood-brain barrier. And that's held together by these tight junctions. They are only allowing certain things in and keeping things out that shouldn't be coming in. The problem, though, is that when these tight junctions start to open up, chronic inflammation happens in the gut and in the brain. When that chronic inflammation starts to happen, this damages our blood-brain barrier. And then it allows this permeability where things that shouldn't be in there are going in there, and things that are coming out shouldn't be going out are going out. And the barrier has now been compromised. That permeability that happens in both the gut and the brain, we're talking specifically about the brain, it allows things like immune system cells, inflammatory cytokines, viruses, bacteria, all of that to enter into our central nervous system. And what does that cause? Inflammation to the brain. Now, when we talk about inflammation, you can probably see any natural people talking about it, and they're like, inflammation is the problem. Inflammation is the problem. Well, I'm going to say inflammation, yes, is a problem, but the problem is what's causing the inflammation. So that's what we're going to talk through tonight, is like, what would be causing inflammation inside of the brain? Now, more recently, they've done research with both of this leaky gut and leaky brain. And when we develop leaky gut, which is very common, most of you watching probably have had it, or you've gone through some testing and you no longer have it because we've walked through how to heal it. But when we have leaky gut, we almost always tend to end up with some degree of leaky brain. When inflammation happens inside of the brain begins to suffer. So we have to identify those things that cause inflammation. Before we do that, when we have this leaky brain, and this might even be some of the reasons why you guys are watching tonight or watching it later on, leaky brain can lead to all of this. So there's literally damage that takes place inside of the brain when you have a leaky brain, and it's going to cause symptoms like chronic fatigue, motor delay, clumsiness, personality changes for children. Oftentimes, learning disorders are also a part of this, attention deficit type of issues, and other like neurodevelopmental conditions. Autism would be one of the things that comes to mind with neurodevelopmental conditions, but also things like irritability, anger, violent outbursts. When we have leaky brain, it can lead to mood disorders like depression, anxiety, irritability. It can lead to brain fog. It can lead to trouble sleeping. In long-term chronic inflammation, leaky brain leads to things like the neurodegenerative conditions that none of us want. But a lot of us have experienced either ourselves or even with our family. And that's things like Alzheimer's and dementia, memory issues, Parkinson's. And it's a very, 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 very important issue to make sure that we begin to deal with it. And these warning signs, like, you can start to see these at an early age. This isn't just something that you develop when you're 80 and 90 years old. So you guys are going to get a ton of value out of this webinar tonight. So the very first thing that we're going to walk through, though, is more of like, what does this do inside of our brains? Like, we talk about, like, this is a very serious condition that can affect literally everybody to some degree, and some people a lot more than others. But over time, if this isn't corrected or fixed inside of our bodies, our brains begin to degenerate. So on that left-hand side is a normal section of the brain. On the right-hand side, we can see some severe brain degeneration. We see shrinking. We see areas where it starts to get bigger because there's no more tissue that's there. That severely enlarged ventricle, it shouldn't be that big because there's no more tissue and it's degenerating away. Over time, this leaky brain leads to degeneration of our brain. And it doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen when we're old. This process takes 30 plus years where our brain begins to wax away. It literally gets destroyed. And it starts with a leaky blood-brain barrier or a leaky brain. So what are these major causes of leaky brain? We need to be aware of them and we need to begin addressing them. The number one thing that you see right there is blood sugar imbalances. This is huge. I'm going to go into more detail of each one of these. We're on not each one of them. I'm doing the first two. We'd be here for 5 hours doing all of this. So I'm going to go through the big ones that really need to be addressed first, but I'm going to walk through a few of them right now. So leaky gut. When you have a leaky gut, intestinal permeability, your gut is not where it needs to be, also known as like dysbiosis. Your microbiome is imbalanced. Systemic infections. So things like Lyme's disease, for example, is a big one that can get into the neural tissue of our bodies and affect us. Chronic mold exposure and other like biotoxins can create neurodegenerative and neurological inflammation inside of our bodies. Nutrient deficiencies. Omega-3s are super important. Magnesium, really important for stabilizing blood-brain barrier. We're going to go through all of these at the end. Vitamin D is a big one, really important at protecting our blood-brain barrier, but nutrient deficiencies are a big one. The chronic mold exposure, I know I touched just a second on it, but that right there, biotoxins are very hazardous substances, and it can cause significant damage to our bodies. So when there's mold exposure that's like chronic, or these biotoxins, when these affect our bodies, it can lead to different chronic symptoms. Like we're talking about even things like viruses, Lyme's disease are very common, mold, yeast, candida, for example. Candida produces this thing called acetaldehyde and gliotoxin. And acetaldehyde is like an alcohol poisoning, basically. So it damages the brain tissue, just like when you drink alcohol, like it affects the way that we think. The same thing happens if we have candida in our body. Gliotoxins. The glial cells are lymphatic cells in our immune systems. And when we damage those, we can get chronic brain inflammation. So we need to work on yeast and fungus and mold and see if there's any issues or problems in our bodies there. Some of you might even know. Chronic sleep like issues and stress. We're exposed to a lot of stress. Yes? Yep, me too. But what happens is when we're under a lot of stress, it causes neurons in our bodies to fire a certain way and not in a good way. And as we're exposed to more and more peace and love and gratitude, it changes all of that. Because when we're stressed, we have a stress hormone called cortisol, right? Cortisol is essential. Like if it's a short-term stress, no big deal. When there's too much cortisol, it can wear your brain down. Not just cause you to gain weight around your midsection or to be tired at the beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, the whole entire day. It disrupts synapse regulation. So when one brain cell fires to another one, it's not able to do that when the cortisol is up high. It impairs your brain function and it increases leaky brain. Sleep is when your body detoxifies, especially your brain. It's when we detoxify our brain. Chronic sleep issues increases not only more stress in your body, more cortisol in your body, more inflammation in your body, low mood, brain fog, like so much. And it's this vicious cycle, is it not? It leads to this vicious cycle of like, I can't sleep, I'm stressed out, I'm here, I'm there. And it does increase your risk of dementia, Alzheimer's, and other neurodegenerative diseases. High toxic load. Toxins, you guys, are unfortunately all around us. They're in our air, they're in our water, they're in food, they're in moldy indoor spaces, like they're in plastics, they're in our beauty products, they're in our household products. But there's a lot of them that contain neurotoxins, known neurotoxins. They can affect your brain. Ethanol, found in alcohol, affects our brain. Glutamate, nitric oxide, botulinum toxin in Botox, it's a neurotoxin. Tetrodotoxin, tetanus toxin, disrupts brain function. Vaccine injuries. Vaccines have been shown to damage brain tissue due to the fact that they cause like a Trojan horse type of an effect, where what happens is it's called macrophages. And they are designed to like go out and eat anything that's not supposed to be in there. And these macrophages, they start to bring aluminum. And they get rid of aluminum, but what they do is they start to bring aluminum because it's used as an adjuvant inside of vaccines. And these macrophages, which are immune cells, they're trying to get rid of it. But what happens is that they take that and they bring it to the brain, and the aluminum then creates massive oxidative stress into the brain. Trauma. Obviously, that can play a huge role, especially in causing brain inflammation inside of the body. But whether it's a childhood trauma or like a car accident, something like that can absolutely play a huge role, because when you have a physical trauma like a concussion, it can cause a breach in that blood-brain barrier. And then now it's open and it can cause things to come in like toxins and pathogens and bugs and viruses and bacteria. It's a free ticket for all of that to go inside. So we need to address those types of things. So let's go through the top two. Blood sugar imbalances. We know that individuals with type 2 diabetes have a significantly greater risk of dementia than individuals who don't. And that's why it absolutely starts with addressing your blood sugar. They did a study, so I'm not just saying that, but they did an association between age and diabetes. It's from JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medical Association. But from 1985 to 2019, 1,700 cases of diabetes and 639 cases of dementia were recorded. What they found out of this whole study was that it kept increasing. Like, the results were absolutely striking. They clearly show that the earlier that you develop diabetes, the greater risk for you developing dementia. 8.9 people of 1,000 without diabetes developed dementia. Comparable, though, to those, it was at 10 for those who have had 5 years of diabetes. Then it went up to 13 for 6 years. And then it went to 18.3 people for more than 10 years earlier. Like, it increased significantly of the number and the ratio of people when they had diabetes for a lot longer. Listen, if you have a diet that is high in refined sugars and processed carbs and low in vegetables and low in brain protecting healthy fats and clean proteins, you're setting yourself up for blood sugar imbalances. So I know that sometimes, like, we want to eat like the high carby stuff or like have a high carb snack because we just need something quick, and like it might feel emotionally satisfying and give you like a burst of energy for a short term. It's going to lead to a crash in your blood sugar, and that's going to cause fatigue and brain fog and start to break down that blood-brain barrier. When we have these blood sugar imbalances, it causes stress and inflammation that leads to that leaky brain and compromises your brain health. Things like brain fog, irritability, lightheadedness, mood fluctuations, anxiety, fatigue, and cravings, all of that comes from a blood sugar imbalance. So a lot of big issues here, but we have to address it. Now, leaky gut. This is a picture of what's called the gut-brain axis. There is a gut-brain connection. The gut and the brain, they talk to each other. They communicate. We call the gut our second brain. And you guys know, like, there's a term like it's like listen to your gut. So it's a brain in and of itself, and it's constantly commuting though with the brain and vice versa. So we want to have a good, healthy communication between our brain and our gut. It's easy to notice this connection, like in the short term, like if you've had like, even before this, like I get a little nervous and I can feel a little bit of like butterflies in my belly and my gut. You're going on a new date. Like you feel it in your belly, you feel it in your gut. You might even like release things from your gut, and it like starts to come out because you get nervous, and like you, like it all works together. Now, that's short term. But the communication between these two organs is ongoing. It is long-term, and it is very like intimate. The GI system contains its own nervous system. It's called the enteric nervous system. Hormones, immune signals, they're all exchanged from there. So communication goes both ways. Now, when this breaks down, and I know this looks like, oh my gosh, what is all over this paper right here? Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that causes this to break down, and it is the release of zonulin inside of your body. Zonulin is a protein that is released by your own body. If you don't like nerdy stuff, that's okay. Just look at how cool this picture is, and we'll get to right after this how we have solutions. But we've got to set it up first so you can understand. But what happens is zonulin is a protein, and when that is released inside of your body, it breaks down those tight junctions. Now, I talked about when you have leaky brain, you also have, if you have leaky gut, you also most likely have leaky brain. So leaky brain begins in the gut. That is where it starts. It starts leaky gut. Zonulin is released from the brain, and it breaks down the zonulin is released by the epithelial cells inside of your body, breaks down these tight junctions. So let's go. There's 4 phases. So you don't just all of a sudden have leaky brain. It goes into these phases that you see right here. The release of zonulin. Why would zonulin even be released inside of our bodies? Well, it happens with an exposure to gliadin and any type of pathogenic bacteria. Gliadin is the protein that's found in gluten. Gluten is one of the biggest things that will break down your gut barrier real fast. And when your body has gluten in it, zonulin is released, but then it breaks down and it goes through. You can see it like right up in this area right here. Zonulin, you see the gliadin that's right there. Zonulin goes in, and when that happens, it breaks down and tissue damage happens into the barrier. It opens up those tight junctions, and now we're creating leaky gut inside of our bodies. Then what happens is when leaky gut starts to begin, you get this immune response. That's number 2. Immune response starts to happen, and now we're starting to develop leaky gut. When this happens, that increased exposure to these stressors that like aren't supposed to be in there, and things are leaking in that shouldn't, and things are leaking out that shouldn't. Now we have an immune response, and we have inflammation because the body's like, whoa, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Now we have immune response. We have inflammation. We have this immune dysfunction. We have a like mayday, something isn't correct. And now there's this vicious cycle. Because if we don't stop eating gluten, then bam, another one. If another bacteria, bam, we have a food sensitivity, bam. And it just keeps going. And it's this vicious cycle that then leads to our bodies beginning to break down. And when we have this unbalance, like imbalance in our immune system, when it responds to that, now our brain gets involved. And this is connected into what's called the HPA axis. And that's your hypothalamus in your brain, pituitary adrenal axis. Neurotransmitters are being developed and going through. It's this communication. Remember, I said it's intimate. Everything is talking to everything. And when all of these stressors start to enter into the blood now they're into circulation. Now things that were not supposed to be outside of the gut, remember, that all needs to stay in the gut. Now it's broken. It's like we have blood, but it's not really blood, but it's like these stressors that go out that are now into our blood that aren't supposed to be in the blood. Things like toxins, endotoxins, pathogens, antigens, inflammatory markers, antibodies. Now it gets into our brain. Now we have number 4. The blood-brain barrier becomes compromised. So now that zonulin is attacking our blood-brain barrier. It's traveled into the blood from the gut, binds to the receptors, gets to the tight junctions of our brain, and now they begin to open. And then the last one step right here, immune response. Now we have neuroinflammation. We have brain inflammation inside of our bodies, damage caused to the brain cells from these toxins, from these pathogens that aren't supposed to be in there. Now we have an immune response in our brain that's stimulated. It's stimulated in our gut. It's stimulated in our brain. We have more inflammation that's happening, perpetuating this whole entire cycle. And now we have chronic brain inflammation. And this is how it all ends up, guys. It doesn't happen in one day, but the good news about all of this, you see how there's like step by step and it goes like this. We start to reverse and we start to reverse, we start to reverse, we start to reverse, and we allow our bodies to then begin to heal. So you guys ready for some solutions? Let me check on you to see if anybody said anything. Nope, good. Making sure everybody's all right. So I don't know about you, but when I like look at stuff like this and I do it, sometimes I want to like go right to the solutions. And so if you've been on here for now 24 minutes, we are getting into the solutions. So now you know what to absolutely do. So here's a list and we're going to go through each one because it's very clear. I think I've made it very clear that leaky brain is a pretty serious thing that we need to begin to address. For whether it's unwanted symptoms that you currently have or a serious health issue that you have, or you just never want to get there in the first place. So the good news is that there are absolutely solutions to doing this. Now, we very much are going to take a foundational approach. Okay, because I can also say, oh, just take an anti-inflammatory. Oh, you know what? Your gut is the problem. So let's just take part of your gut out. So if we take part of the gut out, then it doesn't work. So that is our medical system. We are not going there. We are going to take a foundational approach. Let's start cleaning up the body, pull out those toxins, get rid of the toxins, get rid of any food issues, seal up the systems so they can stay separate from each other, replenish and give your body back what it needs. When you do this, the body comes back online. It starts to recalibrate. Your body gets better, but you have to do the foundational work. Well, how long will that take me, Dr. Cassie? I don't know, years, probably. It's going to take years and years, maybe a few years after that. However, it's so worth it. But for some of you, you're going to see incredible changes even in just the first 6 months. Some of you, you might not see anything until 12 months from now. You might not see anything until 2 years from now. I don't know because I don't know how much damage is happening inside of your body. But here's the thing that I do know. When your body's not healing, something is in the way that's not allowing it to heal. I know that because that's my purpose on this earth, is to inspire people to honor the wisdom of their body and live a life free from interference. And when we find the interference, what's the interference that's not allowing your body to heal? We get to the cause. And when we do that, we remove that interference and your body will heal. So the very first one that you see right there, reduce stress and increase gratitude. Negativity cannot exist in a state of gratitude. Here's what I want you to do. Start your day by acknowledging the things that you are grateful for and end your day with gratitude. That might be the first thing that you do. Some of you, you need to start noticing the small things throughout the day. So when we moved into our house, we inherited like a lot of flowers and things. We are not your flower people. Like some of you in the office, you know, because if there's a plant, it's really going to be dead sometime soon. But but I love them. But we have like right when we go through our gate, get to our driveway, at the end of our driveway, it goes into our backyard. And we have dogs and they've literally flattened out all of like the nice greenery that's there. But there's always a flower. Before it was this pretty little red flower, and it was only one single one. And then recently there's this one that's coming out and it's like pink all on the top. And every time that I come home, every time that I get in my car, I am grateful. I'm like, hi, little flower. Like, you are just making my whole day. And I want you to be able to find those small things. Like, I want you to want that. I want this for you. But you see that bottom half? People who express and feel gratitude have a higher volume of gray matter, which is what your brain is made out of, in the right inferior temporal gyrus. Do you want to know what that does? It's visual and object and face recognition. So like when I look forward, I'm like, this is a computer. That was my inferior temporal gyrus. I'm like, that is Dr. Cassie on the screen. I want to like, you guys know where you're like, you can't think of the words and you're like, oh gosh, who is that? What's her name? What is that object? Or maybe you know somebody and they couldn't think of what that object was, but they know what it is. That is the inferior temporal gyrus. And without any dollar bills, by reducing stress and increasing gratitude, we can make sure that that stays healthy and well. Keep stress down and increase the amount of gratitude. Get a gratitude journal, start writing them down. And I know it's easy to be like, I'm thankful for my family, my friends, my water, my food. I want to challenge you to do 3 new things every single day. Don't repeat the same things, but find more things that you are grateful for to help your brain. Some of you, it might be a better option to set a timer on your phone for 1 minute gratitude time. When that timer goes off, 1 minute of all the things that you are grateful for. Really focusing on positive mental thinking, lots of gratitude. It's super important in strengthening your blood-brain barrier. So, so, so important. Next, improve your sleep quality. I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Sleep allows your brain to detoxify. It's literally when we take the trash out in our brain. We got to really focus on prioritizing good sleep. It is very, very critical. We've done entire workshops on just this topic alone. So we've got to prioritize. Here are some things. Number one, sleep, have your room cool. We like to sleep at, I think it's about 65, 66 degrees. And sometimes when I get in, I'm like, it's freezing. And Michael's like, just wait for it and you'll be fine and your body will heat up and it'll be great. But like, we even have a fan on that goes. We want to keep our bodies, when you're in that cool temperature, it's going to allow you to get a deeper sleep. So you don't want to sleep in hot. Keep your room as dark as possible. Like, you don't want any lights coming into your room. If it has like a light on the TV, a light on your fan, a light on something, you want to cover that up. So even that little light can cause your brain, because your brain always is trying to figure out what things are. And so even though you don't see it when you close your eyes, your brain still knows that it's there and it's trying to interpret what it is. So you don't want that to be there. I'm a huge fan anyways, Dr. Michael, sometimes hit or miss, but I'm a huge fan of a sleep mask. I do it even with blackout curtains. But that's what I use personally. When you have your room as dark as possible and using a sleep mask, it also allows you to get more of a melatonin release inside of your body. So light, any type of light, can also keep melatonin from releasing into your body. Avoiding caffeine within 8 hours of sleeping. So when you avoid caffeine within 8 hours of sleeping, so like, for example, like if you're going to bed at 10, which is a really good time to go, like between 9 and 10 is a really great bedtime. It's, first of all, equivalent to 3 hours of regenerative sleep after midnight. So if you go to bed after midnight, you lose regenerative sleep, unless like for every hour that you go to bed before midnight. It's kind of crazy. But anyways, so if you're going to bed at 10, you don't want to have caffeine after 2 o'clock. Okay. It can affect your sleep or your sleep quality. Don't eat within 3 hours of sleeping. It's a really good rule. And honestly, I mean, you might not be able to follow it all the time, but do it as much as possible and try to finish eating like 3 hours before, because it is the main, like the first 3 hours that you sleep, that is when your body does its main work of like healing your body. And so if it's trying to digest your food, then you miss out on all the other things that your body, instead of it not digesting your food, it can go out and find cancer cells, or it can go out and heal things. It can detoxify even better. But if it's trying to digest your food, then it keeps your body from being able to do its full on repair, detox, heal, strengthen your blood-brain barrier. So you want to make sure as much as you can to try to get it after 3 hours. Get sun exposure during the day, ideally upon when you wake up. This is so important for your circadian rhythms. Like if you're having trouble sleeping, get sun right when you wake up in the morning. It crashes melatonin, and melatonin and cortisol are opposites of each other. So when melatonin goes down, cortisol can go up because it needs to rise in the morning. Like we still want cortisol to go up. We just don't want it to go way up like this. So it rises, but it can't do that if melatonin doesn't go away. Also, very important for the brain is when you have sun exposure, especially in the morning, it stimulates this thing called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic growth hormone, and it strengthens your blood-brain barrier. So it strengthens that whole thing around. So it helps you to think sharper. It helps you to think quicker, have a better memory by just waking up in the morning. And before you look at your phone, even maybe turn on one light so you can see if need be, but like open up the curtains, get outside, let the sun get into your eyes. Avoid bright light after sunset because that can keep your body. So bright light usually is like your phone. Using blue light blockers are really great. And then wind down after 9 p.m. Stop trying to accomplish your goals after 9 p.m. There is no need. You should just be chilling out, relaxing, maybe having a light conversation with your spouse, watching a show that's not terrifying, something that's funny, reading, just being calm, keep your lights dim, things like that. Now, food. There's a lot of things I could talk about with food, but I'm going to just talk about this right here. Get into ketosis with your food. Food is your most powerful form of medicine, and you cannot out-supplement about a bad diet. So some of you are supplementing, and it's like, no, you need to eat real food. But our diet in America is full of carbs, like unhealthy carbs, and most of America and most of us, like not me, but like you might rely on glucose, like sugar as your source of energy instead of healthy fats. Now, of course, we want to avoid all processed foods, all unhealthy fats. We want to get rid of gluten. I think we've already decided that and can see that, like no gluten, y'all, like no gluten and dairy. And I know no one wants to hear that, especially because it's like, it's like keto. Like, no, and not all dairy is created equal. But when it comes to just regular conventional dairy, do you know that they have research now of people getting misdiagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder? And it's because of a gluten and a dairy sensitivity. It's the most common misdiagnosed mental disorders, bipolar, schizophrenia, and it's because they have a gluten sensitivity or a dairy sensitivity. And if you don't know if you have a gluten or a dairy sensitivity, the easiest way is to get rid of them and then add it back in and see what happens to your body. The other way is to get a food sensitivity test to see if your body is sensitive to those things. But here's the thing. When your body gets into ketosis with food, they've done a research study that's right here, the effects of ketone bodies on brain metabolism and the function of neurodegenerative diseases. Can I tell you, first of all, like what's a ketone? So then that way we can, when we walk through what this means, you'll understand. When your body breaks down fats, you don't eat ketones, just so that you know, like you don't eat ketones. It's when your body breaks down fats. And when it breaks down fats and it moves into producing ketones from your liver. When it's processed down, ketones are developed from your liver that are absolutely amazing fuel for your brain. And ketosis, it's an actual physiological state of your body where now you're taking your own body fat, the fat that you are eating, making these ketones, and they cross the blood-brain barrier naturally, and they provide a fuel source for your brain. Ketones, they're like diesel fuel. They produce way more energy than any sugar or glucose can, and they have the least amount of metabolic waste. So when you break down glucose or sugar for fuel, we produce a lot of metabolic waste. And that waste causes stress on the body, causes inflammation on the cells, and it starts to break down our mitochondria, which are our powerhouses, and those are inside of our brain tissue. And your brain has more mitochondria than any other cell. Mitochondria, powerhouses of the cell. We want to fuel them. The neurons in your brain have 10,000 mitochondria per cell. Your heart has 5,000, your liver has 2,000 to 3,000, and your muscles have 1,000 to 2,000. So very mitochondrial rich inside of your brain tissues. Ketones help protect that. They shut down inflammation in the brain. They turn off any type of inflammation. They stop it. It's like they snuff it all out. Like if there was a fire, ketones come in and break it down. So here's what the study showed right here. When ketones were elevated in the brain, they took a study where they looked at individuals that were suffering with dementia and Alzheimer's disease in a nursing home. So In a nursing home, not good, okay? They took one group and they just fed them your standard nursing home diet. Then they took the other group and they fed them the same thing, but all that they did was added MCT oil to their meals. MCT oil turns into ketones really super fast inside of your body. They had the presence of ketones in their brain. Even though they were eating the same diet, they just added the MCT oil. They looked at their memory scoring tests, and the people that had MCT, they saw an improvement in their cognitive testing scores by just adding MCT oil that turns directly into ketones in the body. Crazy. So some of you are on Amazon right now trying to get some MCT oil, and that's perfect. We use MCT oil every single morning. You can put it in your coffee. You can even just like take a tablespoon of it. Like you want to start small and then increase your way up. Bulletproof is our favorite brand of MCT oil. But here's the thing. We also want to eliminate all the sugars fully. They have no nutritional value, all artificial sweeteners, all even natural sweeteners. Like we want to stick to things like stevia, monk fruit, xylitol, erythritol. Eating more of like a paleo keto type of a diet, but being aware of dairy and being aware that vegetables are not bad. Like you want to eat all the different types of veggies, the whole rainbow. It's backed by research. Like it's not just a saying to like eat the rainbow. Our bodies and our brains are full of chemical reactions. And if they need ingredients, like they need vitamins, they need minerals, they need amino acids, they need water, they need oxygen. The pantry needs to be fully stocked so that when they need something, they can get it. And we get this from good, healthy food. We want to increase our healthy fats, avocados, nuts and seeds, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil. My favorite, grass-fed, organic beef, free-range chicken. They all have amazing qualities that we want for our bodies. Focus on that. And the MCT oil, it boosts ketones, decreases inflammation in your brain. We use it all the time. It's a really good thing. But the easiest and best way to achieve ketosis is to eat like a ketogenic, high-fat, lower carb, but lower carb as in not your vegetables, like lower carb as in like no breads, no pastas, none of that stuff, and intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is incredible. Intermittent fasting, like so many benefits that you see right here just for your brain. It boosts that BDNF that we've been talking about, like that neurotropic growth factor, which is like miracle grow for your neurons and your brain cells. And if you're new to intermittent fasting, I recommend starting with just 12 hours of fasting. And then slowly you can increase your fasting window. I've done I did a few webinars on fasting, so you can go back even onto our YouTube Facebook pages and see some of the last ones. But most people do best with like 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. But when you're doing it, make sure the food that you're eating is just what we talked about before. Nutrient dense, real food, anti-inflammatory, getting all the foods in that you need. Regular movement and exercise. Exercise is great. It's great for your brain. It's great for your circadian rhythm. It's a non-negotiable. Everyone say non-negotiable. Non-negotiable helps your body with leaky brain. When you wake up, it's a good idea to move your body. So like the best time to start moving your body is in the morning. And it might look like maybe not your workout for the day, but maybe it's a stretch. Maybe it's a walk in the morning. But you don't want to exercise late if you can. So the same kind of rule of like, don't eat 3 hours before. Like if you exercise late, it can be tough for your body to fully sleep and recover from that. So if you do, you can go for a walk, like if it's gentle, but nothing too intense. Now, listen, any sort of movement, any sort of exercise, you might like to take a walk in the evening. That's totally fine. Maybe you move throughout the day. Maybe you stretch. Maybe you go take a walk to the park at lunch. Maybe you dance to your favorite song. Maybe you take the stairs. Maybe you walk your dogs. Maybe you play with your kids. Like, mix it up. Like, do some strength training, do some cardio training, but do something. 20 to 30 minutes at least 5 times a week of something. It doesn't have to be high intensity. It could be walking, but start moving. Now, improve your gut health. This is a whole webinar on its own. I'm going to talk about a few things, but like, we need to focus on this. So more than you even realize, like focusing on your gut health, but we need to improve our gut, reduce the toxins, open things up, target our supplementation. But when it comes to your gut health, there's a lot of things that really do help your gut heal. But I'm going to tell you that I've learned, because we do a lot of testing with this, is like, it's better to test for your gut health stuff than it is to guess with it. So if you are able, and if you are a patient or you're working with a functional practitioner, like doing what's called a GI effects test will help us to see like, where is your gut health at? Like, is your gut leaking? To what extent? Like, are you digesting foods? Like, how's your microbiome? Like, do you have an overgrowth of anything, an undergrowth? Like, do you need probiotics or do you not need probiotics? Because sometimes you don't need to be taking a probiotic because it's actually causing it to get worse. Like, if you don't see a benefit of taking probiotics, it could be because you have an overgrowth of those things and it's making it worse. Like, do we need to kill some things? Are there parasites in there? Are there bacteria inside of there? Are there pathogens in there that need to be killed? So there's a lot of things when it comes to your gut health, and I absolutely recommend getting it tested first. However, let me give you a few things that are really good for your gut that you can mainly eat. Pasture-raised animal products are absolutely fantastic. Lemons and limes are really, really good. Berries have polyphenols in them that can help protect your brain tissue. So when you're eating it, it protects your brain tissue. But lemons and limes, they have vitamin C and they have bioflavonoids. We also have avocados, which have a bunch of vitamin A, vitamin E. Your fat-soluble nutrients are inside of there. It helps to begin healing your gut, stabilizing your blood sugar levels. It's good fiber, avocados are, and it helps to protect a healthy microbiome. Green tea is also really, really good. Helps like your digestive system has what's EGCG and epigalactin inside of their catechins that all help to your gut lining. Non-starchy vegetables, so like broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, Brussels sprouts. Sometimes those can cause issue in people, and that could be a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth called SIBO, but they're really helpful in your body detoxing. Your body just might not be able to be there yet, but really good for your microbiome. There's tons and tons of nutrients inside of those vegetables, especially helping your body to detox. Turmeric, it's a powerful herb. We'll talk about curcumin here in a minute, but like wild caught fish, salmon, rich in omega-3s, important for your brain. Bone broth, vegetable broth, collagen protein in bone broth, incredible in helping your body heal the gut, which in turn will absolutely help your body heal in your brain. Apple cider vinegar helps support a healthy microbiome. It helps protect or improve your digestive, your hydrochloric acid, your stomach acid. It helps to increase that. And sometimes when you have heartburn, it's because you have low stomach acid. So if that kind of freaks you out, like try some apple cider vinegar, see if that helps. Ginger is really, really good. It helps your gut, like calm your gut down, but it also helps your brain. Those are extra virgin olive oil, olives. Those are really fantastic. And of course, MCT oil, but herbs are really good too. And this is like basil, oregano, thyme, garlic, onions, chives, really good stuff for your gut and your immune system. But if you can get your gut microbiome tested, I would absolutely recommend it because it's a bigger thing than we even realize. Reduce our toxin exposure. I'm not going to get into too much of this because we have a whole workshop on it, but reduce your toxic exposure to help your body heal from leaky brain. Buy organic food as much as you possibly can. Stop using conventional beauty products, body products, health or household products. Replace them with organic, natural, like homemade alternatives. your pots and your pans, like use stainless steel, use cast iron. Your air, like you don't have to get an air filter. You can get an air filter, but go outside, and get some fresh air more often than just being inside all the time. Water, make sure that you get clean, toxin-free water that you drink and that you shower with. And food storage, make sure that it's like glass, like bamboo products, like know what you're putting inside, know what you're putting your food inside of. Open your detox pathways. Open up all of them. Look at all of them. You got your lungs, you got your skin, you got your intestines, and it goes out from your kidneys, your skin, your colon, your lungs. We want to open all of these. So that could be from our skin. So making sure that you're sweating, get outside, sweat. Some of you might use an infrared sauna, and that can absolutely be helpful. Make sure that you're breathing. So we can breathe by diaphragmatic breathing, just taking a moment, breathing in through our nose, out through our mouth, big belly breaths, holding our breath, doing some Wim Hof breathing, movement also, like that helps us to be able to breathe, focusing on just intentional deep breathing. It helps us to push out and pump out waste from our bodies. Make sure that you're pooping at least once a day. If not 2 to 3 times a day. You should be pooping every single day. If you are not, talk to me and we'll get that GI effects test. But really getting all of this waste out of our system on a daily basis. It's so important for our health, and it's so important. We've got to open up these pathways. And you want to be peeing, like you want to be urinating. Like it's a good idea to urinate every hour that you are awake. Like you don't want to be peeing and waking up every hour that you're sleeping, but we should be urinating somewhere between 6 to 12 times in a day. Okay. We want to be urinating out all of these toxins into our system. It's very important. And that looks like making sure that you get enough water. Now, using targeted supplementation, or in the last couple here. I'm a huge fan of omega-3s on that left-hand side that you see right there. It's very important for your brain. It's EPA, DHA. We want to get those from a great source. So you don't buy omegas and fish oil from anywhere. This one, you need to make sure that it comes from a really good source for that. You want to get about 2 grams a day of EPA and DHA. Very, very supportive for your brain health. Magnesium. We just got this new one called multi-magnesium. It may be the most important nutrient when it comes to a healthy blood-brain barrier. If you're magnesium deficient, you are more likely to have leaky brain, and that's going to end up in things like irritability, anxiety, depression, oftentimes the anger and the violent outbursts, poor memory, and brain fog. Magnesium can also help with other things like headaches, a lot of other issues that happen, but a good quality magnesium is good because it's good at crossing that blood-brain barrier. And when it does that, it helps to support the neuronal magnesium levels inside of your brain. So we have this Pure Path multi-magnesium. You may have seen we used to carry, we do still carry magnesium glycinate. However, the reason I like the multi-magnesium now more than even just taking straight magnesium glycinate is because there's 3 different types of magnesium in there. So it's not only magnesium glycinate, but it's also magnesium malate and magnesium glycerophosphate. And these are all good at helping your body protect the blood-brain barrier. When this happens, it helps your body also create what's called GABA, and GABA helps to calm your brain. And it's also important for liver detoxification, that phase 2 liver detox. And most people need more magnesium than they even realize. And a lot of people will notice a big difference once you start taking this. Like if you're struggling with mood disorders, anxiety, anger, irritability, trouble concentrating, you will absolutely see a difference once you start taking magnesium. Now, a couple other ones. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is important. Like, we just know that absolutely in general, but we've got to make sure that we have a good quality vitamin D. It's very important for your brain function. Some people call this their like happy supplement, because when they start taking it, they can literally feel a difference inside of their brain. But the research has found that vitamin D supplementation may protect your blood-brain barrier, reduce that neuroinflammation, and reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases and mental health issues. So typically, you take 1,000 IUs per 25 pounds of body weight. So on average, though, for an adult, it's anywhere from like 3,000 to 10,000 IUs. We take 5,000 every single day, but it's also a really good idea to test your vitamin D levels 1 to 2 times each year. And then you get your levels where they need to be. They should be anywhere between 50 to 100. Most important is 60 to 80, like between 60 and 80. If you can get them in that range, that is a really good place to be. B complexes. So B vitamins, really, really good. If you're B12 deficient, you need more B12, right? So this is another important one. B vitamins, they're important for cellular health, energy, brain health, digestion, red blood cells, nerve function. These are important in avoiding leaky brain. So according to a study on the effects of like high dose vitamin B and vitamin B12 and vitamin B6 and folate supplements, they did it for 270 days. And what they found is that when they did that, it improved the blood-brain barrier and lowered mild cognitive impairment. So foods that are high, though, you can also eat them, are eggs, meat, legumes, nuts and seeds, and dark leafy greens, where you can get B vitamins. So you want to make sure that you have that. And then you can see curcumin. Curcumin plus, there's 3 inside of this one supplement. That's why I love it, because it's curcumin plus. Curcumin, that's the active form of turmeric, okay? According to a study, they found that the changes in those tight junction proteins, they were induced when you're taking curcumin, when produced by oxygen glucose deprivation in the blood-brain barrier. Curcumin can help to benefit and improve those tight junctions in the blood-brain barrier. But also what's inside of here is called resveratrol and quercetin. And some people take those separately, but what I love is that they're all in one. And it not only helps like inflammation, but resveratrol and quercetin, they're really known for down-regulating brain inflammation. And that's important. Like if you've had anything like a concussion, or when you have a concussion or a major head trauma, a vaccine injury, some sort of a toxicity, maybe amalgam fillings, like it could be mercury, toxins, getting more of these antioxidants of quercetin and resveratrol inside of your system, it supports the mitochondria so that it doesn't start to deplete those powerhouses inside of our cells, helps your body detoxify, and helps reduce the amount of oxidative stress that those things can cause on your brain. Pretty incredible. Now, I want you to, like, if you are a patient and you want to get our supplements, perfect, great. But I want you to find supplements that you are really like, you really know where they come from. You know how they're made. Don't just go buy anything, because then you can start putting more toxins in your body because it's not regulated very well. But I would experiment with some of them, rotate them, and see which ones you notice the biggest changes with, and stick to those. Because obviously, like, that's a sign that your body is responding to the right supplement. The last thing, get adjusted. Do you guys see right here the power of an adjustment? When we adjust your spine, we are not just adjusting like that's part of your spine and we're only affecting that part of like the nerve that comes out. Because of the amount of information that is going through, more than we ever even realize, every time that you get adjusted, you are affecting your brain. Your brain chemistry is changing. They've done research on all this. I mean, you can just see right there, like through that, the thalamus, the cerebral cortex, like all the things that are affecting your brain every time that you get adjusted. But also, if you're subluxated, if your spine's misaligned, it's affecting a lot of other things too. So we don't want to like keep our spines in the wrong position, because then it's going to affect our brain. It can affect how things are functioning. But they've done research. It's the link between chiropractic care and cognitive function. Because of the neuroplasticity, your brain changes shape in that. So every time that you're getting adjusted, it's helping to create new signals and new pathways inside of your brain. And adjustments help with that. It helps with your memory. It helps with concentration. It also helps because, like, with neurological conditions, it can affect balance. It can affect coordination. And by getting adjusted, it can help benefit to have more balance and more coordination. But it stimulates that neuroplasticity inside of your body. It aids in this reorganization of the pathways of motor control, organ control. So get adjusted, continue to get adjusted. It helps your brain more than you realize. That is what I have for you guys today. Knowledge without action is useless. So I don't want you to take all of this and be like, that was a bunch of good information. I want you to take action on it. And guess what? If action is one thing, that is perfect. One thing is all that you need to do. Pick of all of those things that we went through. And I know there was a lot right here. What are the solutions? Pick one thing and just work on that. And then once you get that as a habit, work on something different, but you know which one you need to start with. And I want you to be able to start with that. Great. Let's see what we got here. We'll do the last part, the Q&A. Amanda says, highly recommend doing a good sensitivity test. She was surprised by her results. Absolutely. Also, what's the difference between bulletproof MCT? Oh, looks like Dr. Michael answered you. It's the length of the chains of the fatty acids. So bulletproof MCT and the brain octane. Brain octane is a C8, medium chain fatty acid only. It converts to energy more effectively. C10 is a slightly lower quality. That represents the number of carbons attached to the fats. So looking for MCT, there's also short chain triglycerides, SCT oil. But highly recommend starting with at least something. All right. Be blessed, everybody. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know.